The following program is furnished by The Truth About Your Future, LLC. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of this station. This information is education and not financial advice. Consult a financial advisor before investing.
The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman is brought to you by Bitwise, the world's largest crypto index fund manager, and by Global X ETFs. For more than a decade, Global X ETFs has been dedicated to providing investors with unexplored and intelligent solutions, and by Invesco QQQ, a fund that allows you to access the innovators of the NASDAQ 100, and by Edelman Financial Engines. Rick Edelman is a board member, consultant, shareholder, and client of EFE, but EFE is unaffiliated and has no say over the content of The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman.
This is where technology, innovation, and personal finance come together.
This is The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman.
And now your host, Rick Edelman.
It is The Truth About Your Future. I'm Rick Edelman. On today's show, Ukraine and our economy, the latest in exponential technologies, how to invest in crypto, the Metaverse, ultrasound changing the way we treat disease, Metcalfe's law, and the word of the week from my wife, Jean. Yeah, we need to talk about Ukraine and the war against Putin. I'm not going to talk about all the news you know so well. This is a personal finance show, and you want to know the personal finance implications about your investment strategy as a result of the war. Putin has managed to unite the entire world, all of us, against him. But when folks are asking me, Rick, what does this mean for my investments? What should my strategy be? What should I be buying? What should I be selling? Well, I have to tell you, we've never been here before, and therefore nobody really knows what's next. Putin has his massive military with his weapons of mass destruction, chemical weapons, biological weapons, and of course, nuclear weapons. He's also got the capability of launching cyber attacks against our digital infrastructure. And this is why the governments are acting delicately. Economic sanctions to inflict pain not just on Putin, but his fellow Russian billionaires. Too much pain, though, he might turn to more aggressive actions. We're trying to avoid that from happening. And so we're inflicting economic harm. As a result of the sanctions, the Russian stock market fell 40% and it's now closed. The ruble is worth a penny or less. ATMs throughout the country are empty. Russian interest rates are now 20%, and we're already starting to get reports of massive unemployment, food shortages, prices rising 50% or more. But this isn't just hurting Russia. These sanctions are hurting the entire world. Companies have leased over 500 airplanes to Russian airlines. Those planes are worth $10 billion, and those planes are now worthless and they're not making their lease payments. Russia, let's remember, is the world's 11th largest economy. It's the third largest oil producer, 10% of global supply, 7% of our own until we shut it off. And this is contributing to U.S. gas prices being the highest ever. Europe gets 40% of its natural gas from Russia. Aluminum, palladium, nickel, all those are at all-time highs. The metals are used in exhaust systems, mobile phones, and stainless steel. Russia's the number one exporter of palladium, the fifth largest of iron ore. This is affecting the entire global economy. Companies across the globe are stopping operations in Russia. Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, McDonald's, Starbucks, Pepsi, Coke, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, thousands of American companies have fired tens of thousands of workers, including a lot of Americans working in Europe. And those companies are all losing revenue because of our economic ties being cut off from Russia. This partly explains why the U.S. trade deficit is now at $90 billion, an all-time high. We're seeing gas and diesel prices at all-time highs. Gasoline in California is nearing $6 a gallon. Russia is also the world's largest supplier of wheat, with Ukraine 25% of global supply. Egypt and Turkey get 70% of their wheat from Russia and Ukraine. There's also grain, sunflower oil, barley, and more. Food prices globally at a 7-year high. And if farmers in Ukraine don't start planting soon, there's going to be a huge food crisis in the world next fall. Without cash or access to the world's financial system, Russia's got to turn to other sources. 75% of ransomware attacks come from Russia. They earned $400 million last year that way. They earned $1 billion from the dark web. And Russia is starting to turn to crypto to avoid sanctions. But don't use this as an argument for hating crypto. Governments love that Russia is using crypto. Why? Because digital money leaves a digital footprint. It's easier for the governments to track and grab the money that Russia is moving. It's a lot easier than tracking cash or diamonds. And Ukraine is using Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polkadot, and other digital assets to raise money. They've raised more than $100 million in donations so far, people around the world donating crypto. That's more than what the European Union has donated to Ukraine. The Ukrainian government calls crypto, quote, an economic breakthrough. And by the way, Ukraine was ready for this. It has the highest crypto usage per capita of any country in the world. And they're using the money to buy military supplies and food. So what should you be doing with your investment strategy? I want you to do what the Ukrainians are doing. Gather cash, food, and medicine. You've got to prepare like it's a winter storm, a hurricane, floods coming. Remember the story a month or two ago of thousands of people stranded on I-95 on the East Coast because of a big snowstorm? If you had food and blankets in your car, you would have fared a lot better than if you didn't have that preparation. So make sure you're prepared for what might be coming next, because as I said, we've never been here before. We don't know what a madman is going to do next. Now, you can certainly argue that this represents a tremendous buying opportunity. Prices are low, they're likely to go lower, but it's going to take a strong stomach. Losses could very easily get a lot worse, and it could very easily take us a very long time for prices to recover. Or, on the other hand, all this could be over tomorrow. A coup by his generals could end this instantly, and the markets would celebrate with skyrocketing prices. So, we just don't know. We've never been here before, and no one knows for sure what's going to happen next. The only thing I can tell you with certainty is that the risks of investing are dramatically higher today than they were 30 years ago. 30 years ago, if you wanted to earn a 7% return, all you had to do was buy a bank CD. Today, if you want a 7% return, you need to have almost all of your money in the stock market, because that's about the only place that has even the hope for those kinds of returns. The investing world is much riskier today than it ever was, made worse at first by the pandemic, now by what's going on with Vladimir Putin. I'm Rick Edelman. Make sure you're prepared. And part of being prepared is understanding the new economic environment. That means you need to learn more about how crypto works. Have you ever heard of Metcalfe's law? You've heard of Moore's law, which is a very famous business axiom that the speed of computer innovation means that computers are shrinking in size and they're becoming incredibly less expensive. The cost drops by half about every 18 months. Their size drops dramatically. Think about the desktop computers you used to have. Well, now they're laptops. Now they're smartphones in the palm of your hand. Computers are shrinking and they're getting cheaper all the time. Moore's law is a really important fundamental aspect of understanding our economy. Another one is Metcalfe's law. What is that? It says that as the size of a network grows, the value of the network grows exponentially. Think about Facebook, for example. Right now, it has about 3 billion users. Well, go back a decade or two when Facebook didn't have 3 billion, but only had a tenth of as many. 300 million users. What was the stock price of Facebook when it had 300 million users compared to the stock of Facebook today with 3 billion users? While the users grew by tenfold, the price of the stock has grown by more than 100-fold. The value of a network grows exponentially as the size of the network grows. Why is this important? Think about the Bitcoin network. Right now, only 300 million users. What will be the price of Bitcoin when there are 3 billion people who own it? Metcalfe's law, an important thing to consider about future investment prices. And if you want to learn more about this, read my book, The Truth About Crypto, available now for you to order at your favorite bookstore. Stay with us for more here on The Truth About Your Future.
Choice is changing the way Americans save for retirement by making it possible to invest in Bitcoin, crypto, and other alternative assets inside your IRA. That's right. When you open both a deductible and a Roth IRA with your Choice account, you can buy real Bitcoin and or any of 22 other digital assets. In your Choice account, you can also buy stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, gold, real estate, you name it, all in a single retirement account. There's no hidden fees or account minimums, and you get more control over your retirement savings. You can also access Choice via your financial advisor. So if you have a professional managing your money, tell your advisor to get set up with Choice so they can help you access Bitcoin and other alternative assets in your retirement account. Head on over to retirewithchoice.com/Rick. That's retirewithchoice.com/Rick.
Could taxes be dragging down your portfolio? Join Edelman Financial Engines on Tuesday, March 29th at 3 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern for our brand new virtual event, 6 Tax Smart Investing Strategies. We'll show you why tax-efficient investing makes a big difference and how to make it part of your overall wealth management plan. Register now at planefe.com/Rick to learn about tax drag and how you can help overcome it. See how tax loss harvesting can help you offset capital gains. And find out how to make the most of tax-advantaged accounts for retirement, education, and healthcare. Register now and you'll also get a free retirement review with one of our experienced wealth planners. That's an $800 value. Join Edelman Financial Engines for this special virtual event, 6 Tax Smart Investing Strategies on Tuesday, March 29th at 3 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern. And you'll get a free retirement review by registering now at planefe.com/Rick. Edelman Financial Engines. From here forward.
Want to invest in digital assets but find it all a bit complicated? There's actually a very easy way that you can invest in this new asset class. Simply choose the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund, symbol BITW. It's the first and still the biggest crypto index fund. It owns the 10 largest digital assets and rebalances monthly, so you don't have to decide what to buy or when to rebalance. Bitwise does it all for you. At Bitwise, we want digital assets to be available to everyone, and that's why we work closely with individual investors like you, as well as financial advisors and institutions. At Bitwise, crypto is all we do. If you believe digital assets should be part of a diversified portfolio, take a look at the Bitwise Crypto 10 Index Fund, symbol BITW, available everywhere you get your investments. There are major risks to consider, including the loss of your entire investment. Before investing in crypto funds, visit bitwiseinvestments.com to learn about the risks with these investments.
Welcome back to The Truth About Your Future. I'm happy to bring onto the program John Meyer, the Chief Investment Officer for Global X ETFs.
Rick, thanks for having me.
So let's talk about investment management today. We are in a scenario here in 2022 that is proving to be radically different from the past 50 years. Is the 60-40 still applicable today for an ordinary investor going forward through the rest of this decade? 60% stocks, 40% bonds.
We are at an inflection point, at least for a period of time. So right now, Fed policy rates have wide-ranging implications for all asset classes. And repricing most fixed income instruments. So since rates can only rise from zero, the outlook for traditional fixed income is currently skewing negative until rates normalize. And that could be quite some time. So interest rates going up a good amount on the 10-year and 30-year treasury, you're going to lose a good amount of your principal. Going from 1 to 2 percentage points is a huge, huge move.
What do you mean by that, John? If you could lose a huge amount of money, if interest rates rise 1% to 2% on a 10-year treasury, how much money might you lose if that were to occur?
Well, I mean, essentially, if you go from 1% to 2%, you could lose like 50% of your money.
And that's something I think most people don't realize because they consider U.S. government securities to be safe. Do you think that people ought to have as much of their money in bonds right now as they have historically held them in?
So if you're very short duration, not taking that much risk.
In other words, if you buy a AAA rated 1-year bond, you probably don't have a whole lot of risk because in 1 year you're going to get your money back and that AAA issuer is not going to go broke. But if you're dealing with a single B 30-year bond, you've got real risks as to whether that bond is going to exist in 30 years.
Exactly. And in our portfolios, we are short duration where we have some amount of fixed income.
So that's the key. You can keep your bonds, just make sure they're relatively short maturities and durations so that they mature in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years as opposed to 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And that's the approach that we're taking. But there's also another piece, though. Higher interest rate expectations also put downward pressure on equity valuation, particularly in growthier segments of the market. So the equity portion of your portfolio is not immune to what's going on with respect to interest rates.
Because as interest rates go up, borrowing costs to businesses go up, and that lowers their profits.
Exactly.
So what does an investor do then? It seems like heads they win, tails I lose. What is an investor to do? I want to earn income, and these short-term bonds are paying very low yields. I want to have money in stocks, but stocks are threatened by rising interest rate environment. So what are the alternatives for investors today, particularly retired investors who are looking to generate income off of their portfolio?
Higher quality equities, the types of companies that have historically paid and grown their dividends, blue chip type companies, companies with really strong cash flows. That's an area that potentially could be of interest to retirees. Also, something that we focus on at Global X are covered call strategies or collared strategies.
Covered call writing sounds a little bit complicated. Can you accomplish this by simply buying an ETF?
Yeah, we have ETFs here at Global X that satisfy those needs in a one ticket item. You buy tickers QYLD, where it's all done for you. And you're getting an income stream of approximately 11-12%.
Well, 11 or 12% is a radically bigger number than what you're typically going to find in bank CDs these days. So I would imagine that that could be rather appealing to investors who are seeking current income.
It's very appealing, but again, there is a risk of downside.
And what would trigger that loss?
Just the market's going down.
So just because you're getting a high yield doesn't necessarily mean you've got protection. And this is why the notion of these alternative strategies require you to get some education and knowledge and seeking the advice of a financial advisor who can walk you through these steps to help make sure you understand all of this. One of the other challenges I find, John, is that very often retirees are more focused on their current income needs, and they're not really thinking so much about the long-term future. You know, I might be 65, newly retired. I need to replace my paycheck because I'm no longer at work, but I'm not really focusing on the fact that I'm going to live 30, 40 years longer. So how do you balance my need for current income with my need to be able to generate income for as long as I'm going to live?
It's a tough one. I think an investor needs to look at alternative sources of income. There's MLPs right now, energy on a tear because of some of the conflagrations going on around the world. Some of the supply chain issues also. And because the cost of energy is embedded in inflation metrics, this sector benefits in this current inflationary environment.
Well, explain to everybody what an MLP is, a master limited partnership. What is that?
A master limited partnership, which covers exploration, storage, and distribution of energies like crude and natural gas, that stands to benefit from higher energy prices. And MLPs tend to have high yields because of the way they're structured from a taxation perspective. So MLPs must distribute 90% of their income in the form of dividends in order to maintain their preferential tax treatment. Similar to the REITs, if you want to look at it that way.
A REIT is a real estate investment trust. So in other words, if you're looking for yield, don't just go to the natural place where we've gone over the last several decades, bonds. Consider alternatives such as energy or real estate. What kind of interest rate would people expect to be able to generate from an MLP these days?
About 7% or so.
Which again is a lot higher than what you're going to get in a typical bank CD. And again, I'll ask you, do you have to go buy MLPs or REITs directly on your own, or are they available through an ETF?
They are available through an ETF, MLPA and MLPX at our firm.
So this is just illustrative that there are investment opportunities designed to cope with today's investing world. Today, the environment is very different of what it has been over the last decade, and we can't just have a set it and forget it approach, because the investments that we used over the last 10 or 20 years that we used very successfully aren't necessarily designed to achieve success in the 2020s. And this is why we need to take a look at alternative ideas that can respond to today's economic environment of rising interest rates, rising tax rates, rising inflation rates, and the desire, the need to generate income and to consider a juxtaposition of the traditional 60-40 portfolio. If you'd like to learn more about the ETFs that are available at Global X, you can do so simply by going to globalxetfs.com or talk to your financial advisor. That's John Meyer, the Chief Investment Officer of Global X. Thanks, John, for joining us on the show.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate being here.
John and I actually had a conversation for about 25 minutes. If you'd like to watch or listen to the entire conversation, just go to our website, thetruthayf.com. You know, one of the things I've learned about doing radio is that not everybody likes to get their information by listening. Sometimes you want to read the information. That's why I'm really excited to offer you my new newsletter. Every month, I'll give you the information you need about the 5 personal finance topics that matter most: longevity, retirement security, exponential technologies, blockchain, and digital assets, along with health and wellness. Technology is changing everything, and that means we have to rethink everything we thought we knew about college and career, home ownership and mortgages, retirement and leisure, and of course, how you invest your money. In my new monthly newsletter, I show you the investments that I personally own, so you can build your own portfolio or talk with your financial advisor to secure your financial future. Subscribe to my newsletter, The Truth About Your Future. Just $39 if you subscribe now. Savings of 50%. Go to thetruthayf.com. thetruthayf.com. Stay with us.
Allow us to introduce you to Jeremiah, an ordinary person who helped shape the future by putting his money behind the right ideas. Jeremiah's always been a numbers guy, from his days competing in the high school math league to now as the teacher who leads it. Jeremiah is also accessing the companies who are driving environmental innovations for the next generation by investing in Invesco QQQ. Invesco QQQ is a fund that allows you access to innovators of the NASDAQ 100, which goes to show you don't have to be a helioseismologist to help push progress forward. Become an agent of innovation. Learn more at Invesco.com/QQQ. There are risks when investing in ETFs, including possible loss of money. ETFs risks are similar to those of stocks. Investments in the tech sector are subject to greater risk and more volatility than more diversified investments. The NASDAQ 100 index comprises the 100 largest non-financial companies on the NASDAQ. You can't invest directly into an index. Before investing, consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Visit Invesco.com for a prospectus with this information. Read it carefully before investing.
Do you know anyone who's a new investor? You can help make it easier for them to get started. With the new Schwab Starter Kit, new investors can open an account and get $101 to split across the top 5 stocks in the S&P 500. Those are companies they actually recognize, like Amazon, Apple, and Google. There are also videos, guides, and other helpful tools, plus investment professionals 24/7 to answer their questions. It's Investing 101 reimagined. To see the current top 5 stocks and learn more about the Schwab Starter Kit, go to schwab.com/starterkit.
The Truth About Your Future is sponsored by Global X ETFs. Exponential technologies are transforming the world around us and creating new investment opportunities in the process. But where to start? At Global X, we've spent more than a decade focusing on long-term emerging trends, what we call thematic growth. While many of these innovations are already part of our daily lives, from cloud computing to telemedicine and e-commerce, some of the most important breakthroughs are actually harder to see. The rise of blockchain, lithium batteries, and the Internet of Things represent just a few examples. Despite being less visible today, we believe these and other forms of next-generation infrastructure will be essential to powering our economy in the future, unlocking potential for financial, transportation, and communications networks in the process. Visit globalxetfs.com to learn how thematic investing can complement your portfolio, or ask your financial advisor.
Welcome back to The Truth About Your Future. Hey, if you want to get a sense of the biggest innovations that are coming in the future, pay attention to where companies are investing their money now in R&D, research and development. America's biggest technology firms are investing their money in three major areas: cars, healthcare. Okay, both of those make a lot of sense, right? I mean, Americans depend on cars, trucks, transportation to a huge degree. And with the movement toward electric vehicles, self-driving vehicles, it makes a lot of sense that there's a huge amount of investment going on in cars. And healthcare, well, I think we all agree there's nothing more important than healthcare. The amount of money we spend on medical technology, innovation, everything from disease management to patient care, et cetera, the whole bit. Yeah, cars, healthcare, okay, I get it. But what's the third major area where America's technology firms are investing? The Metaverse. The what? Well, Facebook changed its name to Meta Platforms. That gives you an illustration of how much Mark Zuckerberg thinks this matters. So we need to recognize what the Metaverse is. Well, you're familiar with it more than you realize. Remember the movie Avatar? What a wonderful illustration of the Metaverse, where you have a digital version of yourself essentially in a video game, interacting with people, engaging in your life. A lot of people do this by playing video games now. They do it with those Oculus headphones. That's what the Metaverse basically is. The Metaverse is huge and going to get much, much bigger when you consider how much money is being invested in R&D. Last year, $1 trillion in both government and private funding of research and development. The big five themselves, Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, and Meta, spent $150 billion, just those five. That's more than the Pentagon's R&D budget. The Big Five published over the past 5 years 16,000 scientific papers. Anywhere from 5 to 20% of their research spending goes toward exponential technologies, not just the metaverse, autonomous vehicles, and healthcare, but also space, robotics, fintech, crypto, and quantum computing. If you think that these companies are going to be successful at launching new technologies, well, that would suggest that maybe now is the time to invest in those investment categories. Talk with your financial advisor about exponential technologies. You're listening to The Truth About Your Future. A couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month now, I shared with you on this program some information about how we are going to be living to age 100 and beyond. One of the subjects that I covered was a new medical innovation, frankly not so new, that is leading, many people believe, to the eradication of some of the leading causes of death, some of the biggest illnesses that we face. It's called focused ultrasound. And I got a lot of comments from folks as a result of that commentary because people were finding it rather preposterous. They just found it hard to believe that something as incredibly effective as I was describing this technology could be something they'd never even heard of. So I figured I'll bring you the source. Let me introduce to you Dr. Neil Cassell, the founder and chairman of the Focused Ultrasound Foundation. He was professor of neurosurgery at the University of Virginia for 22 years and has been a member of the Global Future Council on Neurotechnologies and Brain Science for the World Economic Forum. Dr. Cassell, it's so good to have you with us on the program here.
Well, it's a great pleasure to join you and the people who are listening in.
Well, let's just begin with the most basic of all questions. Answer for us, what is focused ultrasound and how does it work?
Well, focused ultrasound is an early stage, totally non-invasive therapeutic technology that will serve as an alternative or complement to traditional surgery and radiation therapy. It's a new way of delivering drugs and other therapeutic agents more safely and effectively. An acoustic lens is used to focus multiple beams of ultrasound energy on targets deep in the body with a high degree of precision and accuracy, sparing the adjacent normal tissue. At that focal point where all of the beams converge, like where all the beams of light converge and heat up a spot and burn a hole in the leaf, That's where the magic occurs, where all the different effects occur in the tissue.
And doesn't this hurt? You use the analogy of burning a hole in a leaf. Well, if my skin is that leaf, I'm getting burned. So is this painful?
Patients are treated either with no sedation or with conscious sedation, which is the same analgesic that is used like for a colonoscopy. And it's important to note that since this is a non-invasive procedure, it can be done on an outpatient basis, and almost universally, the patients go home the same day.
So you mentioned that this can be used for a wide variety of treatments. What kind of illnesses or diseases can this be applicable for?
So 10 years ago, there were only 3. Today, there are more than 160. And it's everything from Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and OCD and depression and epilepsy and stroke to benign and malignant tumors of the breast and brain and pancreas and prostate to arthritis and so on. So it's truly an amazing technology which is going to revolutionize therapy to the same degree that magnetic resonance imaging, MR scanning, revolutionized diagnosis.
Is this all in the future, or is any of it available already right now?
Well, of the 160 indications, 32 have regulatory approval around the world. In the US, 7 have regulatory approval, and many of those are already being paid for by commercial insurance or by Medicare, Medicaid.
So is it fair to assume that if I have a given illness or disease that this technology is applicable for and it's already FDA approved, my doctor will know about it?
That's the problem, because in the past, focused ultrasound has been called medicine's best kept secret.
Yeah.
So one of the key roles of the Focused Ultrasound Foundation is to increase the awareness of the potential of focused ultrasound amongst all the stakeholders, including particularly the patients and the doctors and the organizations that have to purchase the equipment and the organizations that pay for it. So the problem is that with any sort of new, highly disruptive medical technology, it usually takes decades for it to evolve from laboratory research to widespread utilization as a global standard of care. It's a glacial process. So the focused ultrasound has the potential to improve the lives of, without exaggeration, millions of people around the world with a wide variety of serious medical disorders. So the problem is, how do you shorten the time from laboratory research to widespread utilization? And it's a critical question, because every month that goes by that the technology is not available translates into unnecessary death and disability and suffering for countless people. So we created the foundation as a unique medical research, education, and advocacy organization with a simple mission to accelerate the development and adoption of focused ultrasound, saving time, saving lives.
You mentioned that there are more than 160 diseases and illnesses that this technology can be useful in treating or eradicating, and 7 of them are FDA approved here in the US right now. How long do you think it's going to take for the FDA to provide approval for all of them?
It is going to be at least 5 years and probably 10 years.
So the fact that it is coming fairly soon is, I think, a hopeful sign. So I have 2 final questions for you, Dr. Cassell. First, what would you recommend people do if they currently have an illness or a disease, or if a loved one does, and they would like to learn more about this technology and focused ultrasound, and how do they talk with their primary care providers about this?
Well, they can speak to their primary care physician or their family doctor, who will probably not know anything about focused ultrasound yet. But then they can go to the foundation's website, fusfoundation.org, fusfoundation.org. And That's basically the encyclopedia of focused ultrasound. It will help patients navigate to every research site, every clinical treatment site around the world for whatever illness they're interested in. And it will tell the patients about the status of the development of those indications.
And if people want to be helpful to you and the foundation to help get this development even further accomplished, how can people learn more? How can people help the foundation?
Number one, awareness is a big problem. So once people learn about focused ultrasound, they should go out and tell everybody they know who's got a disease that focused ultrasound might be able to help them. Secondly, we live on philanthropy almost entirely from individuals. So we're always looking for philanthropic support. This year we have to raise $8 million. So you can go to the website and it will give you instruction as to how to support the foundation.
And again, the website is?
FUS Foundation, FUSFoundation.org.
That's Dr. Neil Cassell, the founder of the Focused Ultrasound Foundation, here on The Truth About Your Future. Dr. Cassell, thank you so much for joining us today.
Again, thank you very much for the opportunity. And let me close by saying that I can say with a high degree of confidence that either you or a loved one or a friend, or maybe more importantly, a pet, a dog, will develop a disorder sooner or later that could be treated with focused ultrasound. Learn about it.
Thank you, Dr. Cassell. Our dogs. Hadn't even thought of that. That's really great info. If you would like to hear the full conversation between Dr. Cassell and me, just visit our website, thetruthayf.com.
What do all the greatest innovations have in common? Agents of innovation. Ordinary people who shape the future by putting their money behind the right ideas. Invesco QQQ is a fund that allows you access to innovators of the NASDAQ 100. So you don't have to be an inventor to help create what's next to come. Be an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ. Learn more at Invesco.com/QQQ. There are risks when investing in ETFs, including possible loss of money. ETFs' risks are similar to those of stocks. Investments in the tech sector are subject to greater risk and more volatility than more diversified investments. The NASDAQ 100 Index comprises the 100 largest non-financial companies on the NASDAQ. You can't invest directly into an index. Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in the prospectus at Invesco.com. Invesco Distributors, Inc.
Want to invest in digital assets but find it all a bit complicated? There's actually a very easy way that you can invest in this new asset class. Simply choose the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund, symbol BITW. It's the first and still the biggest crypto index fund. It owns the 10 largest digital assets and rebalances monthly, so you don't have to decide what to buy or when to rebalance. Bitwise does it all for you. At Bitwise, we want digital assets to be available to everyone, and that's why we work closely with individual investors like you, as well as financial advisors and institutions. At Bitwise, crypto is all we do. If you believe digital assets should be part of a diversified portfolio, take a look at the Bitwise Crypto 10 Index Fund, symbol BITW, available everywhere you get your investments. There are major risks to consider, including the loss of your entire investment. Before investing in crypto funds, visit bitwiseinvestments.com to learn about the risks with these investments.
Could taxes be dragging down your portfolio? Join Edelman Financial Engines on Tuesday, March 29th at 3 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern for our brand new virtual event, 6 Tax Smart Investing Strategies. We'll show you why tax-efficient investing makes a big difference and how to make it part of your overall wealth management plan. Register now at planefe.com/Rick to learn about tax drag and how you can help overcome it. See how tax loss harvesting can help you offset capital gains. And find out how to make the most of tax-advantaged accounts for retirement, education, and healthcare. Register now and you'll also get a free retirement review with one of our experienced wealth planners. That's an $800 value. Join Edelman Financial Engines for this special virtual event. 6 Tax Smart Investing Strategies on Tuesday, March 29th at 3 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern. And you'll get a free retirement review by registering now at planefe.com/Rick. Edelman Financial Engines. From here forward.
Thanks for being with me here this weekend on The Truth About Your Future. Let's go to an Ask Rick. David from Sacramento recorded his question on his smartphone, sent it to askrick@thetruthayf.com. Here's this question.
Hi, Rick. My name is David, and I'm from Sacramento, California. I have a question in regards to crypto. You've always talked, Rick, about the importance of diversifying your portfolio, spreading risk across many companies, asset classes, etc. And through the many decades of listening to your show and reading your books, I wonder if this philosophy still applies when it is applied to investing in crypto. Specifically, I'm wondering because all of the news I hear is about Bitcoin. Seems like they are the clear winner in the early crypto stages. But I wonder if it's wise to invest directly in Bitcoin or if it's better for me to invest in one of the groups like BITW or some of the other options. I would appreciate your advice on this and appreciate all you do and looking forward to reading your book when it comes out. Thanks so much. Take care.
David, thanks so much for your question. You should approach crypto the same way you approach every other asset class. In other words, you know more about how to do this than you realize. You know that the best approach for investing is to have a long-term focus, to use extensive diversification, to rebalance the portfolio, and to keep costs low. I mean, there's nothing new or different or unusual. That advice is applicable to the stock market, the bond market, the real estate market, gold, oil, commodities, you name it. And it's equally applicable to crypto. So your observations are correct. Crypto being a new asset class, the first new one in over 150 years. It was oil was the last time we discovered or invented a new asset class. The best way to approach anything is through diversification. But here's the interesting element. There aren't all that many options for effectively diversifying in crypto. Why? Because it's so new. Bitcoin, as you mentioned, has a huge head start. It was the first digital asset and today has a commanding lead. 50% or so of the entire marketplace is held by Bitcoin. Ethereum comes in at number 2 with another 30% or so of market share. So just those two coins alone will give you 70 or 80% of the entire marketplace. It's kind of like Coke and Pepsi. Oh, sure, there are lots of other soft drink manufacturers out there, but if you buy Coke and Pepsi, you pretty much have the whole market. Same thing in crypto with Bitcoin and Ethereum. So you could buy just Bitcoin or just Ethereum or a combination of the two, call it a day. But there are other coins out there, and the smaller coins might be the faster growing ones. That's where something like BITW comes along, the Bitwise Top 10 Crypto Index Fund. This is a fund that buys the 10 largest coins. And of course, Bitcoin and Ethereum are the two biggest in that fund, comprising about 70 or 80% of its size. The other 8 coins comprise the rest. So it's entirely up to you. You can buy just Bitcoin, or you can buy Bitcoin and Ethereum, or you can buy something like the BITW, the Bitcoin Top 10 Crypto Index Fund, and you'll have a more diversified approach. I'm a big fan of diversification, so I believe in investing in this asset class in a wide variety of ways because diversification helps us reduce our risks. And I also like to engage in dollar cost averaging, investing slowly over time so that I help smooth out the volatility that this asset class is very infamous for. And then finally, I'd like to rebalance the portfolio to help make sure that we don't get overweighted in one area inadvertently or accidentally. So just do what you normally do with investing, adding crypto to your diversified portfolio. To me, that's the best approach. And if you've got a question, do what David did. Record your voice on your smartphone, send it to me to askrick@thetruthayf.com. And if you like this Q&A, you'll want to subscribe to my newsletter, The Truth About Your Future, because we have pages of Q&A with our audience in every issue. You can subscribe now. Just go to thetruthayf.com. Time now for everybody's favorite segment of the program, Visit by my wife, Jean Edelman. Jean is a student of the healing arts, Reiki, traditional Chinese medicine, homeopathy, acupuncture, and of course, macrobiotic and plant-based cooking. Here's Jean.
Hello, great to be with you this week. This week, my word is age. It's just a number. What matters is how we feel. And the goal is to feel good. The goal is to wake up each day without pain and stiffness. I know you're rolling your eyes. We need to, because how many of us wake up without pain and stiffness? But we need to stop the illusion that as we age, we can't be strong, healthy, and vibrant. The key is to connect the dots, to understand that how we treat our body in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s will affect our long-term health and vitality as we enter our 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. You heard our good friend Ken Dykewald, the founder of H-Wave, in his interview with Rick. Feeling good is about our diet, exercise, sleep, reducing stress, our relationships, our continued learning. We do not need to prove ourselves to anyone. We have the wisdom from our life's experiences. We shift from jobs and commitments to having freedom to learn to recreate ourselves. And so an action item for this week: have you made a major life change? Take some time to chart out your list of new experiences, new classes. Maybe it's an outdoor experience, a hike, train for a mini marathon. What health changes will you make? Will you be taking daily walks? Maybe shift to a plant-based diet. Maybe learn to cook for the first time. This is our time, the time when we get to focus on ourselves. No guilt, no judgment. And so my word of the week is age. A is for accept. Accept ourselves for who we are. All the bumps and scrapes that have gotten us to this moment, we should be proud of our accomplishments, proud of everything that we've gone through to date, and excited for what's to come. G is for grace. Give ourselves grace. We're so hard on ourselves. We're children, and every day is new and glorious. Be available for what can appear in our day. And E is for expand. We want to expand our mind. We can change everything. We can be a 70-year-old bodybuilder. We can be a long-distance swimmer. We can paint and create anything we want if we expand our mind to believe that we can. Don't get stuck in the stereotype of an age. We create what it looks like. We create what we want it to be. It can be so much fun. There's no rules as to what and how we need to be. These are our best decades. Dream big. Have a great week, everybody.
That was Jean Edelman here on The Truth About Your Future. And if you want to get more of Jean's words of the week, just go to thetruthayf.com.
The Truth About Your Future is sponsored by Global X ETFs. Exponential technologies are transforming the world around us and creating new investment opportunities in the process. But where to start? At Global X, we've spent more than a decade focusing on long-term emerging trends, what we call thematic growth. While many of these innovations are already part of our daily lives, from cloud computing to telemedicine and e-commerce, some of the most important breakthroughs are actually harder to see. The rise of blockchain, lithium batteries, and the Internet of Things represent just a few examples. Despite being less visible today, we believe these and other forms of next-generation infrastructure will be essential to powering our economy in the future, unlocking potential for financial, transportation, and communications networks in the process. Visit globalxetfs.com to learn how thematic investing can complement your portfolio, or ask your financial advisor.
Did you know Schwab offers a satisfaction guarantee? If for any reason you're not completely satisfied, Schwab will refund your fee or commission and work with you to make things right. You won't find that kind of promise everywhere, but you will find it at Schwab. It's just another way that they put clients' interest at the heart of everything they do. Learn what's included and how it works at schwab.com/satisfaction. That's schwab.com/satisfaction.
Thanks for joining me on the program this weekend. I'm really excited about the debut of my new 16-page monthly newsletter. You can subscribe now at thetruthayf.com. Subscribe now and get 50% off. 16 pages every month of the 5 personal finance topics that matter most: longevity, retirement security, exponential technologies, blockchain and digital assets, and health and wellness. 16 pages every month giving you the content you need for your personal finances. thetruthayf.com. Thank you for being with us, my friends. See you next week.
Okay, should we get some coffee?
Sure. Where?
As a reward, you'll have no radio for the rest of the week. Go to your room.
The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman has been brought to you by Bitwise, the world's largest crypto index fund manager. As crypto grows, Bitwise believes everyone should have a simple and familiar way to access it. Bitwise makes crypto clear. BitwiseInvestments.com. And by Global X ETFs. For more than a decade, Global X ETFs has been dedicated to providing investors with unexplored and intelligent solutions. Learn more at globalxetfs.com. And by Invesco QQQ, a fund that allows you to access the innovators of the NASDAQ 100. Invesco.com/QQQ. Stay tuned for Everyday Wealth with Soledad O'Brien and Gene Chatsky from Edelman Financial Engines. Everydaywealth.com/radio. EFE and The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman are unaffiliated entities.
Get the truth about your future every weekend with Rick Edelman. It's thetruthayf.com.